to the T, pay with a capital P. I wear my heart on my sleeve, ADOS on my jeans, all of my legends in me. If George Floyd had a second chance, you hearing this.
How's everybody doing today? This is attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks, here to have a discussion about Black Lives Matter, their potential bankruptcy, this Patrisse Cullors Warner Brothers deal that I told you guys 2 years ago that made little sense, and just the overall failure of so many to understand the basics of Black politics, both where it's at and where it needed to go. And to give you context of this last 5 to 7 years, because many of you wore the shirt and don't understand, you were part of the problem because you were told that this was a problem organization. What you said back is give them a chance. What you did was march in the street with this shirt that had a generic logo with no understanding what you actually were representing. I want to talk about it because we told you, and a lot of people told us, that you got to give them a chance and don't be negative, and told us not to be the deep thinkers that we are. I mean, me, Yvette Carnell, and many Adolf's followers, American Descendants of Slavery. This is a group where some of the leaders actually tried to call us nationalists for actually saying that we were born here, built here, and as a result owe the debt specifically from here in the multiple trillions of dollars. This is a group where, and I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, where they banked it on the deaths of particularly heterosexual Black men, but also heterosexual Black women, and then gave the money out to Black trans. And I'll show you in a second. This is a group where the leaders, largely to me, are not only underdeveloped, but like they just aren't great people. They aren't great leaders. I don't know where they. We'll talk about where they came from. They kind of just came out of nowhere, all kind of nonsense, little nonprofits. They cleaned them off and gave them to y'all. Y'all ran behind these women, I guess, because they reminded you of your sister. This show is about going back and telling you guys through time, because I'm gonna go back on 2-year-old shows, that we already told you this and you just didn't listen. So now your children have no Black politics because you wouldn't listen. Because you needed to wear a shirt that said Black Lives Matter without understanding what the organization represented. So this is bigger than just the women, the Patrisse Cullors and the Alicia Garza and the transition from Black politics to Black trans politics, but about you and whether you understand how to be political. Right now, the ADOS org is pushing the census to add ADOS to the census, the U.S. government. You don't even know that's going on properly. They got you in the streets over singular deaths, and we talking about changing the way the nation sees you, because you're not just Black, you're ADOS, whether you accept it or not. And I want to talk about how Black Lives Matter got in the way. So we have this Daily Mail article, and it's a number of other publications as well. BLM headed for insolvency after plunging $8.5 million into the red. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And I need you guys to understand what that is. We'll talk about that. There's a powerful tablet.com article that goes into that. And I want you guys to read that article. It's on my Twitter now, that breaks down that, Billionaire found these women and basically gave them they boots. It strapped their boots on. They wasn't organic like that. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, a nonprofit that grew out of the protest movement, is hemorrhaging cash. Financial records show the group ran an $8.5 million deficit and saw the value of its investment accounts drop by nearly $10 million, with fundraising down 88% year on year. So this is a dying group. But we got a $6 million mansion. We got Patrisse Cullors. I don't know what her background is to actually own this mansion, let alone be the leader of a massive movement across the nation. And you see the consequences. You're paying a $1.6 million for security, a $1 million consulting fee purportedly. Let's get right into the discussion. And so many people, thank you for jumping in, have been discussing this on my Twitter, Tone Talks. In my opinion, this really shows two things. That BLM was a failed movement and had no cohesive structure or strategy. Patrisse Cullors was just a figurehead with no organizational skills, talent, or common sense. The unlearned economist said the whole BLM movement was a big fraud, used to divert Black people from their natural aspiration for freedom and justice. The is an enemy organization. Now, I guess BLM is an enemy organization, just a typo. Hattie Carless said, yeah, because those chicks were frauds. They were able to organize the initial protest in one state in the early 2000s, but the global protest that emerged from George Floyd was simply organic. I said this the day that George Floyd happened. It wasn't them out there. They just sent them shirts down there. So the first day, it wasn't no BLM, and then all of a sudden, they just took credit. I said that the day that George Floyd happened. Wilbert Taylor, thank you for calling them out early. More folks need to listen next time. Art Lindsay said, well, at least she's got some 6,000 square foot retreat. So she got a couple of houses, and I guess this is one of them. You know, when you hold yourself out to be some kind of like public figure, this ain't doxing. This is just trying to get clear on where this money came from. A lot of people told me it's from Warner Brothers. I told them it wasn't from Warner Brothers. We'll talk about that. So you guys stood out here with this sign and didn't understand what the sign meant. We're just happy that she kind of looked like you. Don't understand her politics, nothing else. Talking about Patrisse Cullors or Alicia Garza or Opal Tometi, who totally has disappeared from this group. Let's talk about it. So it was on the deaths of these black men and black boys, Tamir Rice and Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. Shout out. Please support the channel, 310-388-3499 to call in, subscribe, donate, and share. We're going to go through a couple older videos. I'm going to have a couple clips in here in a minute in this show to contextualize everything so we can get clear on the history of where this show, meaning Tone Talks, has been. This show that is one of the anchoring for the reparations movement. I testified as the lead expert, one of two, for the California reparations bill, and it would not have happened without you as my audience at all. And now they have bastardized that movement, that as well, because it's not about what they talking about. Education ain't gonna fix this when you got $13 million for the start point for estate tax. Go read my Twitter. They don't know. Just following in the footsteps. Fans that tried to make themselves into leaders. So we look at this context of this discussion about BLM to stay focused. And what I told you back in 2020 is when they asked Biden in this Beckett letter, the Honorable Joseph Biden and the Honorable Kamala Harris, this isn't how politics is done. Congratulations on your election. Again, we sat down by the Democrat and they said, we gonna beg a lot. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. This letter by Black Lives Matter is not a demand. It also not it's not built on a push for reparations, for ADOS, or a true Black agenda. It's just not. President-elect and Vice President-elect Harris, both of you discussed addressing systemic racism as central to your election campaigns. Both of you also expressed regrets regarding, this is not how any of it's done, but they don't know. We don't know who was in control, but what we're going to talk about is the history of it all and ask you a question, why'd you have a shirt on? Are billionaire wallets behind Black Lives Matter tablet magazine? So the article comes out, it has the actual tax forms in there. So you can go read the article on your computer and look at the tax forms yourself. We're not here to guess. We're here to talk. For those people that say, why would you talk about BLM? First of all, because they took our money. But second of all, because they talked about me and they talked about Yvette and they talked about American descent of slavery, and we didn't ask for them to talk about us. Before the Harvard paper that came out that defamed us, both personally and also ADOS, there was this. There was Alicia Garza going to Harvard, the Kennedy School, saying current fight about reparations, American descent of slaves, isn't about reparations. It's historically inaccurate and unintelligent. She can't tell me nothing about intelligent, just levels. It's about homophobia. Again, I don't know how that's the case. Think about it. Xenophobia. So we're xenophobic for saying ADOS, but nobody's xenophobic for saying Jamaican or Haitian or Nigerian, and they're not. They're just saying what country they come from. She doesn't understand that we are a people, so she wants to use the deaths of Black men that comes from the fact that we never created ADOS to enrich herself. And patriarchy. Not all Black people were enslaved, and we all experienced racism. This is Alicia Garza at Harvard Kennedy School in 2019, attacking ADOS. I need you guys to see it because I'm going to lay out the timeline, then I'm going to get into that aid. I'm going to get into it to explain to people the nonsense of it all. Thank you so much, Francine, for the donation. Thank you so much, DJ Trump. We're going to have this discussion about this Black Lives Matter, this generic front. They should have had to call their organization something less generic, because this generic term got hustled on top of being Black in America, let alone being ADOS. And it never was about that. Their org was basically a trans org. I'll talk about it in a second. I don't have to guess. I don't miss. I did a show back in 2021 on Patrisse Cullors after Mark Lamont Hill gave her that tennis ball interview on that network that closed, Black Network News or some whatever, where she basically kind of got to dodge everything. But now we see the consequence of not having journalism and not digging into her, because this should have come out then. Not enough came out. That was a cleanup interview. It was not a journalistic interview to ask the question, where is our political money? In my view, BLM and Patrisse Cullors explained. I want to cut a clip into that because that clip is going to go directly to this. So I told you guys in the middle of that interview that her Warner Brothers deal didn't make sense. For those people that don't know, just to give context, again, I was nominated for an Emmy for a documentary a few years ago as a producer. I've optioned several stories. Optioned Rick's story to Emmett, Randall Emmett, and 50 people over there at Power for a second, and to the people that did Roots one time, just to try to. For those people that don't know, I've delved into this space. So when I looked at this Warner overall deal, I looked at her IMDb. None of it made sense, and I told y'all, and y'all just brushed it under the rug. Let's talk about it. What we actually see is a whole apparatus behind them. Again, I'll show you as we go through the show. I don't have to guess. I'm going to show you with documentation how this developed over the course of the last 7 years behind a lot of big donors. And I'm saying to you that when you look at ADOS, it is an organic movement, small donations by people all across this country to get the message of this show and the Yvette Carnell show, even our ADOS conference. Small black church in Louisville pushes that and supports that. We don't have these large scale, multi-billion-dollar, million-dollar benefactors that we're beholden to, nor as a result do you see. Like what you see is that the apparatus is pushing the Black Lives Matter organization as much as it stands oppositional to us making an argument about ADOS being a specific group. And then black folks at large just also be in a group, but not ADOS. And I think that, even when we look at the overall deal with Patrisse Cullors, we have to look at that overall deal. We have Black Lives Matter co-founder 2021 Patrisse Cullors lands Warner Brothers Productions deal. Now, I say to you again, I'm not saying somebody can't get millions of dollars. In the case of Donald Glover and also Issa Rae, they had these shows, whether you like them or not, Atlanta and Insecure, and as a result, the ability to secure niche audiences allowed them to basically show that they could produce shows over multiple seasons and to keep them on board and make sure that they weren't poached as talent. They gave them an overall deal. They even in the article say that that's 8 figures. They don't say the amount. Now, this young woman, Patrisse Cullors, when you look at it, she has little to no credits in film. So first of all, it made to me little to no sense to do an overall deal with her. I really would like to know way more details about that. You saw the same thing with the Me Too woman. So basically, as an activist, you get an overall deal that usually is given to a showrunner with multiple years of producing shows, somebody that produced shows for years, and you're getting this deal. But then also, people outside are projecting it like that you got millions, when I find it hard to believe that you even got more than tens of thousands, if anything. And so this blocks black politics because people think that you have arrived and you're not being honest about that arrival and telling us the whole truth and being clear. Just say it, like I didn't get any money or I got very little money. That becomes a mask so that we can believe that these homes come out of these production deals when in reality your IMDb does not support that. So you tell us that the TV shows paid for this or whatever. You insinuate, let me say, because it's one of the jobs that you used on the interview. But you only have one writing credit for one show, one episode on a channel called Freeform or something. Come on, man. This is the credits. You got one writing credit. You got some producing credits on some small documentaries. This is not it. I need you guys to stop bringing up that Warner Brother deal or as some way to actually produce large scale wealth coming into pockets. Just for me, I don't see it, and I need people to understand how to read just basic IMDb's. I don't know why she got an overall deal. I think that all of this is just questionable and deserves much more clarity, particularly given that it's coming out of and actually, to me, choking black politics. We here now, and we looking at BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors is quietly dumped from Warner Brothers after a multi-platform TV deal to create original shows telling black stories produced zero content after 2 years. I told y'all that 2 years ago. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, so this is Tasha. I'm calling from Durham, North Carolina.
Give me your take on this with Patrisse Cullors signing this Warner Brothers deal. I told him it was nonsense back in 2021.
Yeah, well, the thing with, especially with the money that was going towards housing and the money going towards family members for various businesses, the thing is that Black Lives Matter, as far as the election is used by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, with no promise for legislation. And they were supposed to do the George Floyd bill, and in its form, it was pretty much dead on arrival. It's like a 6-page bill that only referenced the 94 crime bill. But to me, looking at this information as far as her, I guess, trying to get into production, it just shows that she was never really serious about what they proclaimed Black Lives Matter is supposed to, represent in terms of reducing the violence against Black men and women from police. And it just shows that, we have to do better as far as politics, especially when it comes to holding people accountable, because there are many red flags that, that people at large, even outside the movement, should see, especially when you hear about all the instances where the original protesters and activists, got killed.
Caller, let me break in here. I want to read a little bit more on this odd Warner's deal, and I'm gonna ask you a specific question about this as well to tie it in. Cullors 39 signed a deal with the media giant in 2020 to much fanfare, but it ended in secret in October 22. It emerged on Friday. Too many of you guys are living your fantastical versions of yourself through these oddball activists that basically answer for your lack of lineal wealth. I'm just going to call it what it is. You guys celebrated her because you felt like you could start an organization and do more of the same. Start you a organization you ain't never had no writing credit or nothing, and maybe get you a documentary or a TV show. That's not what this is about. I told y'all it was nonsense. I told y'all, you can't look at this woman and understand, and look at her background and understand this some nonsense. But when I said it, everybody was acting crazy. I showed you the video before. Let me finish this. I'm going to come right to you. The deal, unfortunately, did not result in any produced shows. Cullors claimed in January 22 that she was working on a documentary about how reparations were similar to the idea of land back. So basically, nobody, and you could go look at Google search, whatever, was really talking about reparations prior to myself and Yvette Carnell. Even Darity said that. So there was like this minimal, if nothing, conversation about it, and it definitely wasn't lineal. But then after we anchor that, she gonna do a documentary on it to anchor her Warner Brothers deal because she don't have no ideas. No, go do a documentary on trans. Sell that to us. About how reparations were similar to the idea of land back, where Native Americans got their lands, and another about Black social mobility. So she was gonna bastardize reparations by talking about some other people to sell her show and get y'all. Do you see the cracks? But as long as you got that shirt on, go ahead, caller.
And that's the thing, because when we speak on reparations, we're talking about an existential crisis of wealth going to zero, especially with the wealth being in the baby boomer class, as far as equity, social security, and pension, those things that go away when somebody dies. So for her to try to build a documentary when we're trying to address the existential crisis, for which we have a small window to get something done as far as our politics, I mean, that to me is, I don't know where her moral compass is.
Well, I mean, I don't know where the org was either, because the org wasn't organic. It just wasn't. Now we have this other part of it where I told you guys I don't think there's no money there. If not a couple $1,000s, the value of the deal was not disclosed. DailyMail.com has reached out to Cullors for comment. Warner Brothers declined to comment. The BLM activist posted a message on Instagram just days ago accusing the media of lying about her. For the last 2.5 years, I've been relentlessly attacked by media. You decided to start an org where the ground organizations are saying they didn't receive the money. And we know that one time you did give out some money, it went to Black trans. And the org was built on the deaths of Black men, particularly Black men and Black boys that were heterosexual, but also Black women. And you didn't give them the money, you gave it to Black trans. And you wonder why we said something about you when you did a Warner Brothers show. Huh? But it's about you. Caller, any last thing you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, well, I will probably lead, with Phyllis, because, I think we see this thing time and time again with organizations. Definitely we want to vet people, but we need to be more vigilant in understanding when an organization or person has been sent to interfere with their politics versus actually doing politics, and I'll just leave it with that.
Come on. You can't, I'm gonna say this, you can't vet nobody if you can't vet yourself. I'm gonna let you go. So what's happening is, like, you want to be her and do this weird org thing, and that's how you're gonna answer for yours. And then basically undercut reparations with some kind of bastardized minority base LGBTQA kind of thing. I don't know what these people are talking about. I did another show February 2022. It's time to ask Cullors, BLM, and Garza, where did the millions donated go? I'm gonna break that down in a second to explain to you where they went. But where they went wasn't where they were supposed to go. I got a second clip here because I want to be able to show you this thing in context of what we've all been saying, not just what we're going to say now, today, after the documents come out, and how you didn't listen. How you allowed yourself and your child's future to be bamboozled. Can I talk about it? Let me hit play. What has happened with this org is that they basically decided that they're going to uplift just that corner of Black America. The issue I see first is that this entire movement is built out of the deaths of Black men, and particularly heterosexual Black men. That's just what it is. The bodies on the ground, just by numbers. But also what you see is that it ends up shifting then to Black women over Black men. When you cut these orgs open, you end up shifting to, when you look at this thing, let me read it. In 2020, we selected this, and this I want to be fair because I want you guys to be able to see it. I want you guys to be able to go back and get it. It's the Black Lives Matter 2020 Impact Report. Go read the whole report to be fair and see it. It says it on there. The average donation was $30.64, and more than 10% of donations were recurring. The breakdown: $8.4 million in operating expenses, $21.7 million in grants dispersed to more than 33 organizations, 23 of which are led by LGBTQIA people and Black Lives Matter chapters. In 2020, let's get more specific, because I don't want to play. Can we get more specific? Let me ask y'all in the chat. Can I get more specific about these organizations and tie it back to Caitlyn Jenner and show you how we got here, where you can't really deal with the fact that this should be disassociated from Black politics, but instead it has been intertwined as though it's all one, as if there was a slavery for the trans and for gay rights and there was slavery for ADOS people. There was slavery for ADOS people in America. So in 2020, we selected. They don't give the criteria of how they selected these orgs, but they selected them. I went to about 25 of the websites, and they're really basic. Most of them are really basic websites to me. Let me just read the rest. In 2020, we selected 30 local organizations not part of our grassroots apparatus to be our first cohort of official BLM GNF grantees. As several communities were thrown into heightened political, socioeconomic, and medical vulnerabilities through COVID-19, BLM GNF sought to ensure the survival of some of society's most vulnerable, Black LGBTQIA folks. So they decided that they're just going to focus on Black LGBTQIA folks with the money that is meant for Black families across the board. But they didn't just do that. They focused within that group on trans at an exceedingly high level. What starts to happen is this big old, it's like this big old reflection circle, this big bouncing of dollars in a small little subset of people. I mean, I think this is insane that people can't see this thing for what it is. I mean, if there's now 46 million ADOS, you're talking less than 400,000, 300,000 people, and they're splitting this large sum of money, and they're forming these organizations, and then carving other people out through the classification of the organization in and of itself, but selling it not on the image of the org, but selling it as Black Lives Matter. Particularly the Black lives where Black men, heterosexual largely, because there aren't that many Black men that are trans, that go to prison at a rate we've never seen in any society in the history of the world, and die as they go to prison at rates we've never seen. Black LGBTQIA folks. Of the 30 organizations selected, 23 of them are led by Black LGBTQIA folks. And again, that's not the issue as much as what is the focus of the organization. See, I don't want to know what they're led by. I want to know what they stand for. ADOS stands for Reparative Justice for Black Folks and Black Communities. I don't care who leads it. What they have is groups that are not just led by Black LGBTQIA people, but their whole focus is Black LGBTQIA people. That makes no sense to give those groups 6 figures of money to focus on this little sample of group when other Black folks are starving throughout the city. But it becomes hard to have the discussion that we need to have in that space if Black Lives Matter, the group that they've decided not, to make the forefront, and most people are wearing the shirts and don't even know what the group stands for. What it stands for is what this money is going to. If this group is doing this kind of politics, it makes it hard to even have that discussion. NAACP is going to keep hands off. Black Caucus ain't going to say nothing. They trying to stay in good graces of BLM. Black Lives Matter, I don't know what they going to say. Well, I mean, they're the group itself. Of the 30 organizations selected, 23 of them are led by Black LGBTQIA folks and or directly serve these communities in places like Chicago, New York, New Jersey, DC, and Alabama. Our selected organizations are listed below. We have committed a 6-figure grant to each of these organizations. 6-figure grant. Some of them you could just tell that they're trans, like Trans United, Audre Lorde Project, Trans Justice, Black Trans Circle, the Transgender District. Again, I'll come back to it. According to UCLA William Institute, 0.8% of all Black folks is trans. This group was built on the deaths of Black men, and particularly these heterosexual Black men that died, and some heterosexual Black women. Now, I'm not saying that some trans men, 1 or 2 or 4, didn't die at some point. Well, when we look at Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown out of Ferguson, let's look at 2 of them that put Black Lives Matter in almost entirely in position, which is Mike Brown in Ferguson, which in large part gave real birth. I mean, it started with Trayvon, but Mike Brown in Ferguson gave real birth, and then George Floyd. They would not be able to get access to these programs. So they would not be able to get access in these cities to these programs. But now these programs exist, and this money exists as a result of their deaths. And no one is saying anything. And I'm got to do this show and tie it to Caitlyn Jenner, because I can't speak about Caitlyn Jenner in a direct way because my organizations, my Black orgs, are not standing up for Black folks and Black family. So we got these groups, the Transgender District, the Black Trans Travel, Trans Housing Coalition. So they gave out this $21 million, but they gave it to people they know it sound like. Because it's a small group. Inheritance for trans people in Louisiana. Black trans, I'm guessing, but Black trans, But it isn't talking about, I believe these organizations are talking about black trans, hopefully. But I know that they're talking about trans, but let's presume black trans. But what about the rest of black folks that are around your organization? Because the money came in for black folks. The money came in for the dead black male bodies. We can't have the more nuanced, more developed conversation because we've hamstrung ourselves in making these nuanced arguments the main core issue presented by black politics. So we went back 2 years on 2 different shows and showed you where we were talking about. We went back and showed you how Alicia Garza goes down to Harvard, who then does a defamation paper only a year later or so, attacking ADOS and reparations, basically saying that we invisible people. That's what this says. Current fight about reparations, American descendant slaves, isn't about reparations. Who are you to say that? You don't know enough. Not on my level. 2 different levels of people. And we'll get into it right now with tablet.com, a person that got dusted off and then basically got anchored into black politics as a Trojan horse. That's what happened. And so now you done run off. You're not part of it no more. But you took all the pictures and you was on Times Magazine and in the New Yorker and you was made sure you was in the center. But now that it's time to actually stand up for it, you don't know what's going on. Is Warren Buffett the wallet behind Black Lives Matter? Go read this for yourself. It has the tax documents. Make your own discerned opinion. But I'm just telling you, this lays it out. The Ties Network is a powerful instrument leveraged by billionaires working to change America while shielding their philanthropic dollars from public scrutiny. Here's how it works. So you had politicians like this young woman, the congresswoman down in Boston, talking about Black Lives Matter is a mandate from the people. It was not from the people. It was a mandate from the billionaires. But you didn't know because you don't know how to research, but you're supposed to be the congresswoman. You had people wearing the shirts, holding up the signs, but didn't understand what they was holding up. Again, is Warren Buffett the wallet behind Black Lives Matter? The Ties Network is a powerful instrument leveraged by billionaires working to change America while shielding their philanthropic dollars from public scrutiny. There is a however, and this is just section from the article, another version of events in which the heartfelt dedication to racial justice is only the forward-facing side of a more complicated movement. Behind the street-level activism and emotional outpouring is a calculated machinery built by establishment money and power that has seized on to racial politics. These bedfellows, whose stories and fortunes are never publicly presented as related, are in reality intertwined under the umbrella of a fiscal sponsor named IDEX, International Development Exchange, a modestly endowed West Coast nonprofit originated in the Peace Corps, which for decades supported local farmers, shepherds, and agricultural workers. I believe that's where they found Garza, working for a nonprofit for these shepherds and farmers. IDX has in the past 6 years been transformed into 2 distinct new things: the infrastructure back into the Black Lives Matter organization in the US, and also at the same time an investment fund vehicle driven by recruited MBAs and finance experts seeking to leverage decades of on-the-ground grantee relationships. I guess they didn't know enough not to keep this thing from going damn near bankrupt. Let's go back to the top. Dropped by nearly 10 million, and they lost all the money and the investments. Come on. Investment accounts dropped by 10 million. Let's get into it. Tablet.com. She told us that Black Lives Matter is a mandate from the people. All right. The transfer of BLM's fiscal sponsorship from Thousand Kurds to the Ties Network would appear to end the relationship between Novo and the Black Lives Matter movement. However, according to public financial documents, Novo has continued its relationship with BLM just through a different shell organization. Shell organization. If all these organizations and layers of administration seem a bit confusing and opaque, that is the point. Shuttling Black Lives Matter over to the Ties Network does more than shield Thousand Currents from intense inquiry. It allows BLM to join a massive repository of projects. Y'all wonder why we can't take off with ADOS between a Harvard defamation paper and between the New York Times doing the piece that they did, not really anchoring the reparation discussion that was anchored in ADOS, between these organizations trying to throw these little get-togethers people that don't understand the topic. None of these people understand the topic of reparation. To this, how can you compete with this if they done bastardize your politics and you put the shirt on? You better figure it out. Your babies ain't got no inheritance coming. It's because you don't have none. You been paying on that life insurance, $200 a month. You damn sure had that Black Lives Matter shirt on. It allows BLM to join a massive repository of projects that can be administered behind extra layers of protection in the form of donor-advised funds, which allows donors to anonymously fund projects while still reaping tax benefits, and multiple organizational shells, which include the Tides Network, Tides Center, Tides Foundation, and a slew of other incorporated nonprofit shell organizations, which are housed within a single institutional silo. Can I talk about it? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is Cassandra from Las Vegas.
Give me your take on this.
Well, we've got to follow the trail. I mean, from the very beginning, there was something not right. When we look at the fact that those who were behind this were George Soros and Warren Buffett, that tells us that really is the red flag. But the one thing I want to point out here is just how uneducated black folks became during this movement. It was very evident from the beginning. If you go to their website, what Black Lives Matter was about, they were not for the nuclear family. In fact, they were for breaking it up. And the three women in charge, they were coming from the LGBTQ community. But here's the thing: these women were not qualified to assume these positions. They did nothing in terms of political activism. They made no policy. They didn't support any policies. They didn't put anything in place. In fact, it was ICE who came along with his demands, and
no, we actually had demands for years. It's just I don't know what to tell you guys. Let me say this. The problem is that y'all want to be black so bad that you don't understand that you're ADOS. And I'm not talking about just you. When I say you even understand, meaning flat blackness made sense before 1960, because before 1960, according to the Smithsonian, the amount of black immigrants in America was to the right of the decimal. So flat black meant ADOS. After 1980, it really is a classification. We all have to use it because it's been normalized. It's an absolute failure. And so now what's happened is we got to fight the institutions that are giving them money. So for years, we've been telling y'all, the reparations discussion was years before Ice Cube came to the discussion. Years. California reparations bill was out of this show talking about these topics, and the intern takes it down there and actually uses the show because they wanted to talk about immigration. Can we talk about the history of this? This article here is current fight about reparations. This is Alicia Garza at Harvard attacking me and Yvette's project, which anchored this conversation about lineage. But go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. But my point is that Black Lives Matter has no agenda, and nor did they try to push for any policies or reform. And then pleading with Joe Biden after the election is just the biggest joke.
Come on.
But my thing again is, why are black people so uneducated that they couldn't? Like, I would see black men walking around with BLM t-shirts, face masks, and I'm like, have you gone to their website and take a look at what their agenda is? And that agenda is not for black men. And to allocate all the money that they collected to 0.8% when the issue had to be around black men being killed by police, black men and women, and none of those funds went to where they're supposed to. This is a misappropriation of funds, and also this is about all of our organizations who have failed to hold Black Lives Matter accountable. This is just unthinkable. I don't know how is this allowed to happen?
Yeah, because you don't really exist as a people. You like invisible, and that's what Alicia Garza was saying. This statement is basically saying you don't exist. It's just saying it backwards. So you can directly come up to somebody and they say, I'm ADOS, and they say that's not a real people. Or they can say it backwards by trying to make ADOS like it doesn't exist. They called the group homophobic. Yvette is the president. What are you fucking talking about? This lady is she's not educated at my level. I'm just telling you, this girl, Alicia Garza, we're not the same level of education. And I'm telling you, so she's saying things, she's calling a group xenophobic for saying that it's a group at Harvard. to kill the group so that she can get donations. Go ahead.
She's unqualified to assume her position. All three of them are unqualified. And the fact of the matter is, it's out of jealousy that they attack you and Yvette for doing what they should have been doing.
Well, jealousy is an understatement, because also what you have is her leave. I mean, Alicia Garza, BLM, then start another group that sound just like BLM. Like, what was it, Black Movement of People, something of that sort. I'll pull it up in the final version. She started another group that sound like Black Lives, but isn't Black Lives. So when it's time to actually deal with the fact that all the money is being misspent, you gone. You out of here. It's just Patrisse Cullors left. Now she gone too.
Are these women grifters? I mean, how is this allowed to happen without holding anybody accountable to it? You know?
Well, I mean, that's what the show is about. Thank you so much, holding them accountable. Thank you for calling. Powerful call. I know it's Saturday. Black LGBTQ lives matter. This white man holding that sign. All right. You got the congresswoman down here in Boston talking about it's a mandate from the people. Let me get her name because I don't want to mess it up. Hold on one second. You got Ayanna Presley down here talking about it's a mandate from the people. She don't know where the order come from. Didn't read the tablet article, didn't do her research. What's the mandate? Is the mandate what I just covered, to give all the money to Black trans groups? Or is the mandate to kill ADOS? What's the mandate? Because this is the kind of death knell when you go down to Harvard that could lead to a paper like what we ended up with by saying this to a bunch of people at Harvard irresponsibly. I would not have said this to the bunch of people at Harvard about Black Lives Matter without understanding what Black Lives Matter stood for. I know what it stands for now. They done already told us. Can we talk about it? It was all about Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Philando Castile and Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor. It was about these people. It was about you guys holding these signs up but not asking, am I talking about the tag Black Lives Matter, or am I talking about this org that these young women started and then ran off from? Because Tometi left, and then Garza left, and now Cullors left, and now all the money gone, but the houses is still there. The houses that was bought. BLM headed for insolvency after plunging $8.5 million into the red. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, that's what we just covered in the tablet, a nonprofit that grew out of the protest movement, is hemorrhaging cash, financial records show. The group ran an $8.5 million deficit and saw the value of its investment accounts drop by nearly $10 million. So many of the local orgs challenged the dominant BLMGNF group because they can get access to the money. So they doing the work on the ground and they can't access the money to actually do the work on the ground. And saw the value of its investments drop by nearly $10 million, with fundraising down 88% year over year. Despite the financial woes, the organization still paid relatives of the founder and of the board members hundreds of thousands of dollars for services. Can we talk? BLM attempted to justify the purchase of the mansion. What mansion are we talking about? We're talking about this LA mansion. What mansion are we talking about? We're talking about this LA mansion. Can we get to it? Everybody in the chat, I see y'all. These hustlers are getting fame and fortune off the deaths of ADOS people. Whew. Black Future Lab, that's what she called it. Black Future Lab, meaning Alicia Garza. Another name, same thing. Can we talk? Can we talk? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? You got to turn your background down. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello?
Hello, how are you doing?
Oh, fine. How are you? I couldn't tell. Purple Dynasty from the Bay Area.
What's up? So you're going to come through this article with me, and I'm going to bounce it off of you, different paragraphs. I just want to know what you think after I read the paragraph. I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm going to let you give yours. BLM attempted to justify the purchase of the mansion by saying it was made to encourage Black creativity, with the property a space for Black folks to share their gifts with the world. That ain't what you were supposed to get money for. I'm sorry. This sounds like Jay Morrison in that Black House. The organization also went on to defend how the funds the group raised were spent, including the $3 million used for COVID relief and a further $25 million to Black-led organizations. So while we're getting attacked over COVID, because that's really what the Harvard paper was, and that's what we dealt with. While I told Black America first about COVID, I was among the first people to tell we had to deal, ADOS had to deal with using COVID to make it seem like we're right-wingers and we're crazy. We are embracing this moment as an opportunity for accountability, healing, truth-telling, and transparency. We understand the necessity of working intentionally to rebuild trust so we can continue forging a new path that sustains Black people for generations. What are you even talking about? The barrage of tweets, which notably had their comments turned off, ended with the group announcing they were embracing this moment as an opportunity for accountability. Concerns over the group's finances have swirled for years, with BLM coming under intense scrutiny in the past. In February 22, the group stopped online fundraising following a demand by the California Attorney General to show where millions of dollars in donations received in 2020 went. Go ahead, caller. Give me your take.
Okay, so you gave me a whole dictionary, book report, and encyclopedia to answer, but I'm gonna try to answer.
Whatever part you want. Whatever part you want.
So I would start with watch what people say. No, watch what people do and not what they say. They transfer money to the LGBT, trans, or whatever, right? Alicia Garza was going all around the country, or at least in the Bay Area anyway. She was repping Oakland in these Zoom meetings and claiming to be for the community. However, her assistants were all Latinos. It wasn't no Black folks. And when they got down to the actual discussions of supporting community, it was always either trans or LGBT. It was never Black. So, you know, they were smoke screening from day one, although raising all this money off of dead Black men, basically, and Black boys, that money was transferred and hijacked and pirated into their cause. And the saddest part about it was Black folks did debate without questioning their antics of what they were doing. So a lot of that was shame on us, but the same tactics is being pulled in this reparations process where, you know, we're here fighting hard to get money for those of us chattel slavery. And thanks to you and Yvette, I give y'all's crowns, but also I got to give credit to Dr. Claus because he was talking about it beforehand as well.
But he was not talking about lineage. Nobody was talking about lineage. But nobody was talking about lineage. If you just say Black, you might as well not say reparations. The whole big part, first part.
No. So then if we
go
no,
ahead.
You're right. If we just say Black, okay, yeah. But remember, we was Black folks before, so we had to change our verbiage. I get that.
But I need this is the important element. But this is the important element because you have FBA, which is Foundational Blacks. You have Black Lives Matter, which is Black Lives Matter. The element of is not just verbiage; it's the entire discussion changes. It's not just saying. See, first of all, it's the wealth gap itself. Because my show, I interviewed like Thomas Shapiro, who came up with Black Wealth, White Wealth, or Mercer Baradaran. That's not what Claude was doing. That is the first part, teaching you about wealth, the Federal Reserve, and everything else. The second part is just as important. Me and Yvette were talking about lineage.
You gotta understand, you got old school and new school.
No. This is just a school. But what I'm saying, I'm not gonna go back and forth with you and go through this. What I'm telling you is that this moment is about either following the reality of what we're saying or not understanding it. It's not about selling conferences. It's not about you trying to mix us up with other people. This is about understanding that the whole discussion is to keep you from talking about ADOS. Because as long as you're talking about flat Black, you fine. That's what got you Kamala and Obama. That's what got you to Corinne Pierre. That is the discussion, and that is not what nobody else was talking about. I need you to see it because everybody's struggling. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, North.
Give me your take on it, North.
Yeah, I really just have to address the last caller because I'm thinking and completely kind of the nonsense. First of all, we're not going to sit up here. This is what we're not going to do. We're not going to sit up here and complain. She told me this is talking comes to union, all of these things. Let's be very, very clear. Adolf Foundation, period. Antonio Moore, attorney Antonio Moore, told you about what happened. Dr. Claude Anderson did not do that. Okay? Yvette Carmel, Madam President, Yvette Carmel did not tell us what we need, so we need to be involved in group economics. That is not.
That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. And North, let me say something else. What she is proposing, the can't we get along model, is why we couldn't gut BLM in the beginning. Because everybody told us until the bankruptcy came out, can't we all just get along? When I told y'all 2 years ago that money didn't come from Warner Brothers, you said you're not sure, can't we all just get along? What I'm telling you is that we done with can't we all just get along. I'm going to tell you the truth, and you can eat it or not. Go ahead.
Exactly. And see, I had problems. Because first of all, I was saying, well, just listening like I always do. How do you sit up here and tell this man? How do you tell Antonio Moore? But basically, this is what she did. She tried to tell you you didn't know what you were talking about. We're not having that today. If you're not going to call into the show and be respectful and actually speak to the point and know what you're talking about, then just admit that you don't have the comprehension. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, don't forget closing that fish market, and then he didn't want to give them their money to black business and everything. So okay, it sounds similar to this. So I ain't stole from no fish market. Yvette did a whole show on it if you want to Google it. Went through that black business that loaned him that money, and then he started hiding the money. That's at least what the accusations were. And when it says he, I'm talking about Anderson. The group logged a $961,000 loss on security sale of $172,000, suggesting the group sustained an 85% loss on the transaction. Further details of the security have not been shared, and the cash flow into BLM's coffers have dropped dramatically. Donations plunged by 88% between 2021 and 2022. Again, what article we're reading is this one right here. BLM headed for insolvency after plunging $8.5 million into the red. Patrisse Cullors, who had been at the helm of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation for nearly 6 years, stepped down in May of 21 amid anger of the group about the group's financial decisions and perceived lack of transparency. A year later, in May 22, it was revealed Black Lives Matter spent more than $12 million on luxury properties in LA and in Toronto, including a $6.3 million, 10,000 square foot property in Canada that was purchased as part of an $8 million out-of-country grant. The Toronto property was bought with grant money that was meant for activities to educate and support Black communities and to purchase and renovate property for charitable use. The group has said it was planning to use the property as main headquarters in Canada, and it was now named the Will C Center for Arts and Activism. It emerged that Cullors transferred millions from the organization to a charity run by her wife, Janya Khan, to purchase the property. Many of y'all should be maybe calling for investigations and possibly even jail time if those find fraud. This is insane. It later emerged that Gay has been declared bankrupt 3 times. According to the federal reports obtained by the New York Post, Gay, a mother of 3, filed for bankruptcy in 2005, 13, and 16. Cicely Gay, 44, was appointed to the board of directors of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation in April of 22. We are honored to announce that Cicely Gay, Shaloma Bowers, and Dizana Parker will be joining the BLM Global Network Foundation Board of Directors. Again, this is all out of this article. Cullors admitted to AP that her group was ill-equipped to handle the finances of a charity which received $90 million the year after George Floyd was killed, but denied any wrongdoing. Cullors issued a statement denying she used the $6 million of LA property for personal purposes, but then had to backtrack and admit she had used the compound for purposes that were not strictly business. The activist also amassed a $3 million property portfolio of her own, including homes in LA and Georgia. It did not come from that Warner Brothers deal. We already showed that, although there is no suggestion of any financial impropriety. It is not known if the group paid out lucrative contracting fees to Cullors' friends and family past June 22 when a new board of directors was brought in. The board is now led by nonprofit advisor Cicely Gay, who had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy 3 times since 2005. Gay was ordered by a court to attend financial management lessons, and at the time of her appointment, April 22, had more than $120,000 in unpaid debt. She was one of 3 people appointed to the board, the organization said in the tweet. She subsequently has been described as being the chair of the board. New York Times, she had been appointed to straighten out the organization's finances after BLM GFN faced intense scrutiny. BLM GFN has faced intense questions about its handling of donations, which surged in particular during the George Floyd protests in the summer of 2020. This whole article is just insane. Black Lives Matter national organization is at risk of going bankrupt after its finances plunged $8.5 million into the red last year, while simultaneously handing multiple staff 7-figure salaries. You know, I just wanted to come and have this discussion about Black Lives Matter. I mean, for me, none of this makes any sense. I wish you guys the best with this idea of mixing all these things and getting along. I'm telling you, there are levels. You better get your level up. Wearing that shirt is why your kids can't eat. It's why the politics is messed up. And it's why Black Lives Matter even came into existence. This is Tone Talks. Please go to tonetalks.net, subscribe, donate, and share. Let's keep the discussion going.
Feels like a second chance every time I turn on the news. A Black American man killed, they tied in the noose. Feels like a second chance, a man just could have been me. Feels like a second chance, in 24 hours I breathe. This shit is not adding up. Body count is just adding up. I'm not aware enough, I'm not care enough. I believe it seems to be the latter. Seems to be a 400-year struggle building in this country since emancipation. Time for reparations. I've been on call with my people. Time to go get up, collecting the government's dues. Anything else a distraction. I don't got no time for no bull talking. We moving. I've been on that to the T. Pay with a capital P. I wear my heart on my sleeve. ADOS in my jeans. All of my legends in me. If George Floyd, he be hearing this. If Breonna Taylor had a second chance, she be hearing this. If Ahmaud Arbery had a second chance, he would f this. A white supremacist system that was built to crush your necks. Who is next? You can't even trust your common sense. This is something you should comprehend. Reparations, that's the only chance. I'm sick and tired of the symbolisms. Did 44 even try to fix it? There was Jim Crow, there was Tulsa. We were redlined, we've been locked out and built the richest country. That's right. Feels like a second chance every time I turn on the news. A Black American man killed, they tied in the noose. Feels like a second chance, and man, this could have been me. Feels like a second chance, in 24 hours I breathe. I've been on call with my people, it's time to go get up, collecting the government's dues. Anything else a distraction, I don't got no time for no bull. You talking, we moving. I've been on that to the T, pay with a capital P. I wear my heart on my sleeve, ADOS in my jeans, all of my legends in me. Feels like a second chance, I don't got another chance. Every time I call my parents, feels like the last glance. I've been running out of time, walking on a thin line. Trigger fingers with the knife, pointing right in my mind. If they're gonna try to kill us anyways, might as well fight for something. And I'm damn sure not gonna let it happen, and I wind up dead for nothing. I believe that it's our biggest battle. Seems to be a 400-year struggle building in this country since emancipation. Time for reparations. I've been on call with my people. Time to go get up, collect on the government's dues. Anything else a distraction. I don't got no time for no bull talking. We moving. I've been on that to the T. Pay with a capital P. I wear my heart on my sleeve. ADOS in my jeans. All of my legends in me. Yeah. ADOS. Stands for American Descendants of Slavery.